Skeeter
Yo, dog!
is a 1999 creature feature starring giant mosquitoes, inspired by 50s sci-fi movies. The original producer worked on this movie for 2 years before the studio came in and changed everything. And we all know that when a studio gets involved, the movie always turns out great. Skeeter opens up as typical as they come. Probably the most overused trope in any monster movie. Toxic waste. I wonder what will happen. Sometime later, these kids are exploring an old mine, and he runs out in a hurry, taking off on his dirt bike, being chased by something. It's giant mosquitoes. I don't think that's a spoiler for a movie called Skeeter. Now, we meet Roy Boone, who has to be the most reckless person ever. No shirt and using only sunglasses to weld. Then he goes for a ride on his motorcycle without a helmet. This guy's just begging to die.
The law says you gotta wear a helmet.
Stupid law.
Well, it turns out that he's a deputy for this small desert town. And Sheriff Ernie Buckle just asked him and his partner Tucker to help look for some missing kids. The ones from the beginning. They head out, but first stop at a funeral, where we meet Sarah Crosby, who is only in town because her mother died.
Oh, Sarah. I'm sorry about your mom.
Boo-hoo, she's sad. Boone comes in to swoop her off her feet. You know the drill. Elsewhere, Sheriff Ernie meets with Drake, a rich businessman who wants to build a housing development here, and all the locals don't want to sell. You would think the sheriff would be against Drake, but not Ernie, because he's getting bribed, paid under the table to get the residents to move out.
I see I've spoiled you.
Next, the deputies have a look at all the cattle that's been dying off, wondering what's happening to them. It's the mosquitoes. After that, they actually decide to do their job and look for the missing kids, meeting with Frank, the father, and Chrissy, their sister. After a quick 5-minute conversation, they head back to the station. So, the only thing they were asked to do that day took them 5 minutes? Great police work. Later on, while Frank and Chrissy are out looking for their family, they get attacked. Our first decent look at the flying pests. And hey, they don't look too bad. Frank's killed while Chrissy hides out inside the car. That night, Boone gets a phone call from Frank's wife, reporting that they still haven't come home, and she's getting worried. So Boone and Tucker head out and look for him, actually driving around and doing their job. Wow! And guess what? They find him! See what a little police work can do for you? They managed to save Chrissy, but she's pretty messed up after seeing what happened to her father. Remember those missing kids? You know, the ones that the cops refused to look for? Well, it's Sarah who manages to find them. She tells her dad, who calls into the cops, and they have a look. Finally. Elsewhere, we meet yet another new character, Gordon Perry, a geologist who's been called in by Boone to investigate why all the cattle are dying, suspecting that there's something in the water. The first person he talks to is a pretty eccentric local, Hooper. He's a weird guy. I'm pretty sure he's homeless, living in this shack, but I'm not too sure. Perry asks to see his well, but he doesn't even have running water, so no help there. After Perry leaves, we do see something interesting though. Hopper keeps the mosquitoes as pets and actually feeds them his own blood. Imagine the welt this fellow would leave behind. At the bar, we see other people are getting attacked as well, but they don't know what's attacking them. Some saying it's vampire bats, and others saying it's killer ducks.
Knocked me in the water, I landed on a big old rock and damn near busted my tailbone.
The vampire bats.
Killer ducks.
I just want to point out that this is the bum from Back to the Future. I always like seeing him in other movies.
Drunk driver.
Now we see some guy messing around out in the desert, driving like a maniac. He stops to get out and open the trunk, and we see that he locked his girlfriend in there. What? Well, it turns out that she cheated on him, and this is her punishment. What kind of backwards town is this? Well, she forgives him pretty quickly, and it looks like all's forgotten. Until he tosses her back in and closes the lid. It's at this point you just know he's gonna get it. And he does. After a while, his girlfriend gets out of the car, looks around for about 10 seconds, then decides to just leave the guy out in the middle of the desert. Honestly, I don't blame her. Now, let's see here. Boone and Sarah talk about the dying town. They get to making out, which leads to more. The next day, the sheriff gets it on with the chick who was stuck in the trunk of the car. I guess this movie had a sexual content quota and only had 2 scenes to do it in. Perry meets with his boss, who tells him to drop the whole contaminated water thing. So basically, he's being paid off by Drake as well. But luckily, Perry doesn't give up. Boone's attacked by Drake's cronies, who end up taking him out into the desert to kill him. Luckily, our mosquito friends attack first, killing both of the men. In the morning, Boone wakes up with no one around. He finds the dead men, and after looking up, he sees the culprit. Sarah teams up with Perry to show him around for water samples, and while they're out, he notices the old mine. So they go to take a closer look, and deep inside they find the mutant mosquito eggs. To make matters worse, Ernie's sneaking up behind him, and he doesn't want his dirty little secret revealed to the world. So he's gonna kill him.
You're crazy.
Geez, a bit harsh. Good thing he didn't account for the giant mosquitoes. They attack him and chase our heroes out of the mine, but Sarah falls into a hole. Unable to help, Perry covers it up so the Skeeters can't get her, and he rushes off to the police station. Boone's there, and he's ready for a fight after what just happened to him in the desert. It's a good thing he's all riled up, because on his way to the mine to save Sarah, he gets stopped by more of Drake's goons. There's a shootout where these guys couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Boone and Tucker manage to take them out pretty easily and head to the mine for the final showdown. Inside, he pulls a flamethrower out of his butt, finds Sarah, helps her to her feet, and go deeper and deeper into the mine, taking out as many Skeeters as they can. In the very, very back, they find some TNT and rig it to blow. They rush outside just as the explosion engulfs the mine, killing all the mosquitoes. And probably using up 80% of the movie's budget. In the end, besides the mosquitoes, they still have their problems. Drake's still gonna take the land, Sarah's gonna move back to the city, and Boone stays back to help the few remaining citizens in his small town. And that was Skeeter. What a bad movie. Seriously, I try to go in with an open mind and find the best in everything, but this one was just so boring. But yet it had so much going on it was hard to follow. First off, the mosquitoes. Sure, they're huge, mutated by toxic waste put there by Drake, but he never gets in trouble for it. Drake isn't sucked dry at the end or even attacked at all. I will say the actual mosquitoes did look pretty cool, but there was just about no other special effects in the whole movie. Remember in Mosquito how cool those effects were? Secondly, the storyline about Drake taking over their land was just not important, and like I already said, he never paid for his crimes. There's also a lot of other scenes that were just thrown in there for no good reason. For example, we see Tucker at one point has this bandage wrapped around his head. He later explains that he took some bad peyote. That's it? You didn't get attacked by a mosquito and that's the bandage covering it up? All these little moments come together to make a messy movie that shows the studio got involved and didn't let the creatives create. And the end result is a movie that's just not worth watching. Check out Mosquito if you want some blood-sucking fun. I give Skeeter 1.5 Skeeters out of 4.
Will you tell me what done that? See how black and blue that is? They tried to kill me.
Sure they did.
Oh, yeah? Well, you take a look at this. You ever see anything that ugly in your whole life?